Alright, lads, so starting tomorrow alongside the release of the new 10th anniversary part 2 characters, we are getting our usual end of month limit breaker quests. So with that, of course, that means 50 more spirituals, but also 550,000 more transcendence points. With that though, that also does mean the current 10th anniversary special limit breaker quest is set to leave in less than 24 hours time. So if for some reason you haven't already gone ahead and done this one, make sure you do it before the next one does drop in less than 24 hours time, because otherwise you're going to miss out on these extra rewards. Either way, when it comes to the rules this time around, these are designed for 3 specific characters that are all going to be available while this quest is active. So slot number 1 wants to bring a power ranged Aaroniero killer. Slot 2 wants us to bring a technique ranged Quincy killer. And then slot 3, technically the more flexible slot, it really just wants you to have Soriper killer, but that is by no means necessary. So with that in mind, this is the team they want you to bring. Slot 1 and 2 are clearly designed for the upcoming Jushiro and also Renji. And then slot 3 wants you to bring the new Magic Society Giselle, who is again scheduled to return in like a week's time. So we would have the easiest time. Obviously, it's a given that you are going to want to use Renji and also Jushiro, especially given the damage output these characters are able to dish out, having some of the highest DPS in the entire game. Renji in particular is going to be able to activate his EX attack against the poised enemies. That is going to give him a 100% spiritual pressure boost for 10 seconds. With the fact that he does have Lacerate and Poise Break, he will be knocking over the enemies and then just dealing a ridiculous amount of damage, and even the Lacerate built in per tick is also going to be dealing millions of damage. So Renji is going to clear stages very fast, that's a given. Likewise with Jushiro, his damage output's good. With his Paralysis Plus, he doesn't have to worry about the enemies attacking him. And then also most importantly, which is why I'm kind of excited to try out this team if I possibly can, Jushiro is able to give your entire team 10% strong attack recharge every time you move into another stage. And this is regardless of the other character's attributes or even affiliation. Everyone gets that reduced recharge time. Now it is on the lower side, it's the lowest that we've seen, only 10%. It's still good to have, though it's definitely better to have it and not have it. But the other 2 characters that we have been seeing with this particular skill had it through enemies defeated bonuses. Jushiro pretty much just has it built in. So I'm not too sure whenever you do move into another stage if all your strong attacks will be back, but they definitely will be heavily lowered so you can reliably spam your strong attacks more often than not. And then for slot 3, if you are to bring Giselle, she's going to be doing a lot of damage. She is a limit breaker unit, so she does do more damage to Soripers. And then most importantly, she does have Dominate. And Dominate as a stat element stops the enemies from attacking you. They attack each other, and if they do attack each other, especially in the context of limit breaker, because they are Soripers, they do millions of damage to each other as well. So this is really where you get to see Dominate as a stat element shine outside of the effects that it stops the enemies from hitting you. You really get to see the damage ramp up in this game modes. And that's kind of why the last 2 Giselles that we have gotten have been the limit breaker character of the month, because it really is to promote Dominate as a stat element. But let's have a look at some alternative options. So when it comes to a power Aaroniero killer, more specifically one that is ranged, what you are going to see here is not that many good characters. But you know what? Hopefully we'll have to see how this character does play out. We do actually have Rukia, the Parasol version. Now she was also a limit breaker character, so with that in mind, she was designed for this game modes. Even then, every time we talk about this character, we bring it up. The strong attack 2 sucks. It's a melee collision attack, so even though you are getting that, power damage bonus, you're getting that ranged damage bonus, she's only getting that on her strong attack 1, normal attack, and also strong attack 3. The SA2, strong attack 2, is classed as a melee attack. Fortunately, it still does damage. It's still getting the killer effect, it's still getting the power damage increase, but it's not going to be your strongest strong attack. It'll be your weakest strong attack. But if you are a Rukia fan, this is a great way to take her out. She doesn't really get to see much play due to the strong attack issue that she does have going for her. And at the very least for herself, she is a self-sufficient unit in Limit Breaker because she will be reducing the strong attack cooldown between stages for herself. Unless for some reason you bring a power character in slot number 3. Her damage output is still pretty decent by all means. Like, she has Frenzy Plus 2. She has a full stamina damage boost. More damage to frozen enemies, of course an increased Starism and chance with an 80% spiritual pressure boost. But most importantly, still the only power character in the game to have this, one of the 5 characters in the game to have this, the Rampage skill, where every time she defeats an enemy, she gets 2% more damage, capping out at 100%. That goes for her strong attacks, normal attacks, and also Soul Bomb. So despite almost being 2 years old, she still holds up. Is she almost 2 years old? I think she is. She should hold up relatively well for this current Limit Breaker quest. despite the issue of her SA2. Keep in mind though, of course, when compared to Jushiro, and likewise with slot 2, when compared to Renji, any character we talk about here is going to pale in comparison, because they just do crazy damage output, more consistent damage output too. Rukia will pretty much be doing like half the damage that Jushiro is able to deal. But also one thing to keep in mind with this particular Limit Breaker quest, more so in slot number 1 and 2, is that we are seeing Freeze Plus. Weaken Plus in slot 2. So even though this character is immune to freeze, she can be inflicted with freeze as she does need a 200% resistance. It's something to keep in mind. When it comes to Limit Breaker, it's not that big of a deal. I personally was using Ishin and also Owetsu in slot 1 and 2 last Limit Breaker quest, where there were status element plus pulls. And sure, sometimes you get inflicted by it, but it is very easily dodgeable, especially when you do give your characters long stride, you can just work around it. But it shouldn't stop your characters from dealing the max damage they can deal. But other than Rukia, right now when it comes to characters getting all the damage multipliers, it really kind of is just Rukia. I guess a newer character would be this Toshiro, but he is a farming unit. His damage output isn't really supposed to be that high. Having said that, it's not like it's the worst. Frenzy 2, more damage to freeze enemies, 80% spiritual pressure boost with an increased Stars and chance, and also a 75% strong attack damage increase. For a mid-month like farming character, his damage output isn't bad. I'd be curious to see how he performs in this quest, but definitely by no means someone that you should be bringing, right? It's just not going to be able to compete to some of those newer characters. But, you know, for a low-tier unit, he does surprisingly have decent damage output. Your next best thing, though, could potentially bring a power Aaroniero unit, one that is melee-based, for example. Now, unfortunately, given the unity, barely any options. Barely any options. I wouldn't be surprised in the future if we do get a melee Aaroniero killer in the power attribute, because the only alternative option, recent option, would be Mayuri, and he's over 2 years old. So alternatively, you could look at your ranged power units. Now, Aizen, I think, can make for a decent character. I feel like you would be better off using him in slot 3, because that's definitely a possibility you can do with him. But Aizen will be getting the 2x power damage bonus and also the range damage bonus. And we tried him out in Limit Breaker. I think he'll be good when the rules match him, but right now, not entirely. But he does have a good strong attack kit, a lot of crowd control with this character, a lot of heals too. He's going to be always at full stamina, and also does apply Dominate, which again is able to deal millions of damage per tick, assuming the enemies are attacking themselves, right? So if you don't have Jushiro, maybe one of your better options is going to be Aizen. But again, like I already mentioned, he might work better in slot 3, because slot 3 as a whole, the HP for the enemy should be lower, and he will then also have Killer there. Not entirely, he has Captain Killer, but he will have its increased Stars chance against the Soripers. He won't have that against the Aronkars. Granted though, due to his strong attack kit having Frenzy 3 and a bunch of Vortexes, he should be fine when it comes to inflicting stat elements. If we have a look at our ranged Aronka killers, disregarding the attribute, I would love to say some other characters here, but this is why Jushiro is kind of a big deal, because ranged Aronka killers just suck. They are just terrible. Again, Rukia is like the most decent one outside of Guild Quest, I guess, but even like we mentioned, she has problems with a strong attack too. Any other character here has problems. Rangiku doesn't have a good strong attack kit. She doesn't have an increased Stars chance. Bambietta is Bambietta. She has Guild Quest skills. She has no SP boost. Rubber is a normal attack damage character. Like we mentioned, Toshiro is a farming unit, but unironically compared to the rest of the characters, that's pretty much your best option. So when it comes to slot 1, Jushiro is definitely going to be the best. Next best option maybe is going to be Rukia, and then probably Toshiro or maybe Aizen. So I feel like Jushiro is more important right now, because he will enable your other characters to clear faster due to his recharge skill, but also due to the fact that there isn't that many good replacements for him. When it comes to slot number 2, again, we want to bring a technique ranged Quincy killer. What you're going to see here when we press confirm is that, yeah, there's almost even less options with technique range Quincy killer. I would love to say this character could be good here because she does have the increased Stars chance against Quincy's, speed attribute Quincy's. In a way, this would be the one time she can be actually useful. And she also has the, you know, damage multiplier there, but her damage output is terrible. Frenzy 1, 40% Berserker, no SP boost, no use. No use. So, of course, right now, Renji is pretty much the only character is going to get all these extra damage modifiers. Your next best option is to look at your best technique ranged character. In that case, your options open up a tiny bit more. More so with 2 particular units. Maybe 1 particular unit, but, you know, using Giselle as an example, again, Giselle can do a lot of damage, especially once more with the Dominate. But keep in mind, Giselle doesn't have Poise Break, and when you don't have your increased Stars chance, there are going to be enemies coming at you and attacking you. You don't want to get hit with this character. So you have to play a tad bit safe in slot number 2 if you are deciding to use this Giselle. But she is actually returning, I believe, when this Limit Breaker quest is active. But if you don't get Renji, just bring good or reliable 9th anniversary Grammy. Again, anytime you can bring a ranged technique character, Grammy is used here. Sure, he's not going to have the killer effect, but he's getting the 2 times range damage. He's getting the 2 times technique damage. And it's Grammy. He has a crazy strong attack here. He's healing himself. He's paralyzing. He's got the EX attack that's going to lower the enemy's defense, allow himself to clear faster while also boosting your allies. And no character we're really using it in slot 1, 2, or 3 is boosting your allies' attack. So this EX attack does have value. Right now, Grammy's been one of the most usable characters in Limit Breaker, and I feel like right now is another example of when you can use him, especially if you do have this character worked on, maybe even max transcended. He was available in last year's anniversary banner. He was available in this year's anniversary banner. He was available in the selector ticket for the 100 million download celebration. There was a lot of ways to get this unit and also get plenty of him. And even though he won't have an increased Starsman chance against the Quincy's, he's still going to be doing crazy damage too. He's still going to be reliably inflicting his Starsmans. And again, the more duplicates you can get for this character, the better. And I guess it's also worth mentioning too, right? If you are using a Quincy in slot 3, which is kind of encouraged because there's 2 Giselle characters you can use. The Magic Society or the base Giselle, but then Giselle gets better because she'll then get the extra 30% damage and also 20% strong attack damage. Although, to be fair, the Magic Society Giselle already has this skill built into her kit, so she won't be getting that, but she will be getting 20% more strong attack damage. And if you're hypothetically using Technique Giselle in slot 3, then she's actually boosting Grammy's damage output, which is kind of funny, right? So it's maybe only Grammy that you can use in slot 2 if you don't have Renji. Fortunately, Grammy is a much more common character. I feel like everyone should have him, hopefully. I'm sure someone out there isn't going to have him. My condolences. He's a great unit. But once we could just look at ranged Quincy killers. Now, similar to Jushiro, to be fair, why Renji is quite a big deal is that ranged Quincy killers don't have that many great characters. When it comes to spiritual pressure units, it's basically Okiura and also Retsu. But even Retsu, when she released, she was replaceable for Limit Breaker with Ishin. Her damage output really isn't that high, even in Guild Quest, because she has Guild Quest skills and she has no built-in strong attack damage increase. It's full stamina in sets. So even though Retsu's a recent unit, it's not like she was crazy for her time or release. In fact, again, outside of Guild Quest, the damage is quite nerfed here, unfortunately. So you really can't even sort by ranged Quincy killers because that doesn't help you. So you're really just looking at, again, ranged technique characters. So in this case, Giselle, or also Grammy. Most importantly, Grammy though. But when it comes to slot number 3, all you need to do is have a Serpent Killer. And in that case, there's a few options. Like I said, there's 2 Giselle characters you can use. By far the best option here is going to be Giselle Sorry per Killer Plus. That means she's doing 40% more damage, which is then tripled due to the killer effect increase. Giselle has a good strong attack kit. She has an EX attack. A good damage output too. 80% sports pressure boost, 100% damage to dominated enemies, 30% more damage to status afflicted enemies. She boosts her own strong attack damage. She has an 80% strong attack damage increase, and again frenzy too. Overall good strong attack kit, good damage output. With the dominate, it's sure to inflict a lot of damage, especially in slot 3 where the enemies I believe are going to be weaker compared to slot 1 and 2. Most importantly, with Giselle, she will be getting her damage output increased too because she is a mind character up against hard enemies. But speaking of that, because you are up against hard enemies, before we even highlight any other super character, right? Similar enough, you use these characters all the time. It feels like every month when I talk about Limit Breaker, I'm talking about Grammy and also Ishin. Right now, they're just the 2 goats for this game mode. Hopefully, you have the character maxed out, max transcended. It doesn't matter. 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5, he's great. And maybe in some cases, unless you know you have a max transcended Giselle, maybe in the case Giselle being max transcended, Ishin. It doesn't matter he has no killer here. He has his increased Starsman chance against every hard enemy. And that's all that matters. Because what you're going to see here with Ishin is that he can inflict 2 Starsmans. Burn and also Lacerate. With his strong attack kit, especially that strong attack 2, you're guaranteed to inflict Starsmans. And as the poised enemies' HP get further increased, they deal a lot of damage per tick. And each one is dealing millions of damage. Burn and Lacerate. Not millions of damage straight away, but as you progress, it does start to do a lot of damage. So when it comes to using Ishin, despite his damage output actually being really good, again, he also has Rampage with Frenzy plus 2, 120% Sporty Pressure boost. You know, he himself is doing a lot of damage, but it's also, most importantly, on top of all the Lacerate and Burn damage. So, yeah, slot 3 is quite easy. Just bring Ishin. Just bring Ishin. If you have Giselle, probably bring Giselle, the Magic Society version. You can try both. I'll be trying both. But I think most people can just rely on Ishin as a character in slot 3, and that's good, because you were able to use him last week in exchange for 10th anniversary Ichigo. And I just had to look at my account profile. I feel like I've used Ishin in Limit Breaker like 8 times out of the last 12 Limit Breaker quests, which is absolutely crazy. But again, because the requirement here is just to have killer effect, if you bring any Soripa, they should be decently good here. So in the case with Giselle, right, you can use this one. Same reason why you would want to use the Mind Giselle. She has Dominate. She does more damage than Soripas. Her increased Starsman chance is against Soripas. Now, this Giselle gets bigger buffs by having Grim in your team if you are using him in slot 2, because she doesn't have the skills that, the other Giselle has. But alternatively, like I already mentioned, this character is buffing Grammy. So if you are using Grammy and Giselle, this one, they work well together. Good character for slot 2 and 3. Giselle should be doing good amounts of damage, not crazy, but good amount of damage, and again can rely on the damage to dominate status on it. I guess other characters that are probably worth mentioning, you do have access to Bazby, also End of Year Ichigo. He's actually available in this upcoming banner, and you also have Yoruichi. She might be decent in slot 3. I'm actually not sure how she would perform. She doesn't have Frenzy Free everywhere, so that definitely does nerf her damage output a tad bit. But she does have Poise Break. She has a good damage output for the time being, I guess. And she also does have the EX damage boost, but I would definitely stick to just using Giselle in slot 3 or use Ishin. So like I already mentioned, on your screen now is the best team that you can use. But again, you can easily replace Giselle with Ishin, and that likely will be the case for most people, and this probably is going to be the best team. If you don't have any of these characters, maybe this is going to be your best team, assuming you pull no new character. And while we didn't speak about him, you can probably get away using this Ichigo in slot 3. I mean, you are up against hard enemies after all. He has crazy damage output. He won't have his increased Starsman chance, as that is only 2 humans. He won't have his killer effect, but it is 10th anniversary Ichigo, right? If you were lucky enough to get him and maybe even increase his special move level, then you can definitely get a use out of this character. But either way, that's the video for today. In the comments below, let me know what team you lads plan to use. I'm curious to know, and I'll see you lads next time. Take care, and peace.